Today's lesson is going to focus on two new aspects. The first thing is a little bit of review, and that's because when we go and we solve an equation, it's possible that we can literally get a variable all by itself and it will equal the solution. So here, for example, 1, let's just say that x equals 4. It doesn't, I'm just making it up, but after you went through and you solved this whole equation, you're looking for the very bottom and you go, hey, I know what x is. When we look at example number 2 and we try to find out what p is equal to, you're going to come into a very weird situation where there's no p's left. It would be like 0p on the left side and 0p on the right side. And if it's 0p, there's no reason to even waste your time with that. And let's just say that we had 6 over here and 5 over there. With no p's left over, we don't have any more variables to isolate. And so basically we're just left with two numbers on either side of the equation, and they do not equal each other. So when you get done solving this equation, so to speak, when you see that there are no variables and there's just two numbers left and they don't equal each other, you just say, hey, no solution. In a very similar situation for the infinite solutions, you're going to see after you go through and solve all of this, 0k on both sides, which means there's no k's. And then there's just going to be numbers left over. And in this case, I actually remember what the final thing will say. It'll say negative 30 equals negative 30. And so when you're looking at two numbers left over with no variables, but they actually equal each other, it's an infinite solution. If there's two numbers left over with no variables, it's no solution. And back here is like, back in the happy days where, gee, I always get the variable by itself and it's equal to a number, and I know that x is equal to 4 now. So let's go through and take a look at some situations with equations. And remember, you don't know at the beginning unless it's an example, but if this was a problem in your book, let's just say it was number 1, you'd have to go through and solve. So let's go through and start with distribution. And we get negative 18x minus 9 after we've distributed, pull down everything else. We now need to combine like terms. Only like terms we had was a positive 8, negative 9, so 8 minus 9 was negative 1. Then we need to go through and get all of the variables to the same side. So it looks like to me I'm going to move the 18x to both sides, so plus 18x plus 18x. Remember, there's an invisible 1 in front of that x if you need to. Write a 1 in front of it. So this is our result. 1x plus 18x is 19x. It's positive, so that's the reason I put a plus sign there. Let's move the 18 to the other side, so subtract both sides of the equation to keep the balance, and now we get 19x equals 19. I'm sorry, 19x equals negative 19, and now we can just divide both sides by positive 19. That will get us a positive 1x in front of that x if we needed to there, and negative 19 divided by 19 is negative 1. And this is the situation that you're used to seeing. You're used to seeing a variable equal to a number. That's your solution. So what about when we get to the situation where there are no variables left over? Well, let's take a look at it. Let's distribute, for this example 2 equation, let's distribute that 2 to everything inside the parentheses. You'll notice that we get positive 6 and positive 10p, so I just slide that down and pull everything else down that I haven't touched. Now we need to combine like terms, and I notice negative 2p and positive 10p, so negative 2 plus 10 is 8p, and everything else is pulled down. Let's get the variables to the same side of the equation, so we subtract 8p from both sides. Basically, that makes it 0, and we're left over with 6 equals 5. Well, that's a situation where we say there's no solution because 6 does not equal 5. And now let's take a look at the infinite solution situation here. Let's go and solve this one together. Let's go and distribute. And we get negative 5k minus 30. Keep in mind, if you ever need to, just slide a 1 in front of those variables again. So negative 5 times 1 is negative Negative 5 times positive 6 is negative 30. Get the variables to the same side of the equation, so we'll add 5k to both sides. Makes it 0, and with me actually scratching that out, you should see negative 30 equals negative 30. When we have no variables and the two numbers left over are actually equal to each other, we call it an infinite solution situation. So basic recap, if you come through and you have a variable left over and is equal to a number, we call that a one solution or the only solution. Example 2 is where we looked at a no solution situations where there's no variables left out because they've canceled out, but the two numbers remaining in the equation are not equal to each other, so that's a no solution situation. And then it's almost the exact same situation, no variables, two numbers left over, but they do equal each other. It's the only difference. That's where we say it's infinite solution. So I'll write a sideways 8, and that would just mean infinite solutions. Time to practice.